Hello, Internet. I'm Aaron Peart, and you're watching Living Without Rulers on the Voluntary Virtues Network. I had to go to Calgary for business this week, but I couldn't stand the thought of not doing a show and disappointing all my loyal fans, so I brought my studio with me so I could do the show from my hotel room. Not sure if you noticed there, I changed the name of the show to Living Without Rulers. I thought that would convey the message I'm trying to get out there a little better. And I thought it sounded better, living without rulers. And that's what we're trying to do here, is to learn to live freely. One thing that is important about living without rulers is doing things for yourself. Now, since we're kids, we're taught that we can't do things for ourselves, that we always need someone looking out for us and doing the hard things for us. For example, you can look at common problems such as household plumbing. You have a plugged drain. What is it that you're supposed to do? Call a plumber. Well, because you're not a trained professional, you should never, ever, ever touch anything that has anything to do with any trade that has any kind of certification. Except that knowledge is free now, and fixing a plugged drain is pretty easy. I did it 2 weeks ago. I replaced the whole trap in my bathroom, and my pipes work just fine. I'm just lucky that the demand for plumbers is so high that there isn't anyone lobbying yet to make it illegal for someone to work on their own pipes without a permit and a journeyman's certificate. Yet. Yes, knowledge is free. I learned how to write web applications from Wikipedia and other sources that, collectively, I like to call University of Google. That's not illegal either. I mean, sure, there are some companies that won't hire me because I don't have any certifications, but that doesn't really matter because there are plenty of companies that will, and there's nothing stopping me from going into business on my own. Yet. You don't need an institution to tell you that you're qualified to do something. You know you're qualified when you do it successfully. Yes, there are exceptions. I wouldn't want some dude that says he's a surgeon giving me a heart transplant without seeing proof that he knows what he's doing. But I really think that Western society has taken this specialization thing a little bit too far. So I started shooting for the second episode of the show on Saturday, but my newly installed microphone boom nearly came crashing down on me. Yes, I installed it myself, and I made a mistake. I could have hired a carpenter to come and do it, and he would have done a great job, and it would have looked awesome. But it would have cost me hundreds of dollars, and it would have probably just been about as safe as it would have been if I had been paying attention to what I was doing in the first place. I could have slowed down a little bit and thought about the screws that I use to mount the stand to the ceiling, but then I would have had the opportunity to create the video that I'm about to show you on how to properly mount a microphone boom to your ceiling. In the video, I show you how to safely hang a microphone stand from the ceiling for about $60. Now, keep in mind now that I'm mounting it to a beam, so there's wood underneath the drywall, and I know that it's there. And that should always be the case when you're mounting anything heavy to a wall or ceiling. This can be achieved by finding studs or joists with a stud finder that you can get from your local hardware store. Of course, in this case, it wasn't necessary because I knew that there was wood there. Anyhow, let's take a look. Okay, today we're going to hang a microphone from the ceiling. As you know, microphones require stands, something to hold them up. I've got this guy right here. It cost me about $45 at the local music store, and it works great. It's portable, and it'll hold any microphone I need it to. The only problem with this is in a studio setting, especially in this particular case, the floor space is rather limited, and I'm always going to have this mic set up. I don't want cables everywhere, and I want it out of the way. So we're going to hang it from the ceiling. In order to do that, we need a microphone boom. So I have another stand that's exactly like this one. I just took the boom off of it. You can buy the boom on its own. I'm probably going to have to do that to replace the one that I poached this from. Anyhow, you're going to need some blocks of wood. I just hacked up a couple of pieces of 1x4 here. It doesn't really matter to me what it looks like, so the cuts aren't straight or anything. You're going to need this guy right here. It's a little flange. There's 3 holes in it, and some threads. So what you do with this is you can screw any kind of microphone clip to it, or all the threads on these things are the same. So you can screw the boom to it like that, or whatever you want. So you can put it down on a desk and have a gooseneck. They're really handy. Today we're going to use it to hang my boom from the ceiling. So what's going to happen is this is going to screw into there, and then this is going to be hanging from over top of my computer camera, and it's going to hang down, and then this guy's going to be attached to it, and I'll be able to have my microphone right almost in my face and still be able to keep it off the screen. So that's going to be really handy. The other nice thing is the cables will be all nicely wrapped around it and just tucked out of the way, and I'll be able to just swing it. You'll see. Anyhow, in order to get started here, we're going to take the flange. I'm just going to put it down on this block of wood here and use a pencil to draw a circle around it. And then we're going to use the awl, just a spike. You can use a nail, you can use anything you like. And we're just going to put some marks here where I want the holes to be drilled. And once we've got that done, we're going to need some holes to mount it to the ceiling. And these 4 holes I'm going to have fairly close to the flange, because what's going to happen is this block of wood is going to be screwed into the ceiling, and this block of wood is going to be screwed to that block of wood. So we don't want the screws to hit each other when this one is going into this one. You'll see when I'm installing it. So I'm going to keep these 4 holes relatively close to the flange, and then I'm going to do another 4 holes on the corners of the bottom block, or that's going to be the top block because it's going in the ceiling. It's a good idea to pre-drill, because when you're putting deck screws into a piece of 1x4, they tend to split the wood. So pre-drilling is always good. So we're using 12 deck screws in all. This guy actually came with 3 screws. We don't want to use them if you're hanging anything that has any kind of weight to it, though, because the screws are only about a half an inch long to 3/4 of an inch long. Not the deepest threads on them, and I actually had this almost came crashing down on me when I so yeah, we want to replace those screws with something a little bit more substantial, and this is why I'm going so overkill with having extra blocks of wood and extra screws and all of that. Drilling holes for screws. The one thing you don't want to do is have a drill bit that's too close to the size of the screw. Otherwise, the screw isn't going to grab. So I'm going about half of the diameter of the screw of where the threads are. Should suffice. So now I have all my holes drilled. See, I've got 7 on here, 4 on here. I've made sure that the screws aren't going to hit each other. So now we're going to install this into the ceiling. Just adding a little bit of oil onto the threads because it's going to be used as a pivot point. A little oil will keep the threads from wearing down on me too quickly. What I do here is I screw it in all the way and then unscrew it a half turn. That way I know it's in as far as it needs to be while still allowing it to freely move. And there you have it. I now have myself a nice boom that swings freely. That counterweight on the end balances the weight out. The microphone's fairly heavy, so it keeps it from putting too much stress on the thread. Now that little round flange that I used, that I got from the music store, it comes with a set of screws. I highly recommend replacing those screws with something a little stronger, like deck screws or something stronger than what comes with it, because that was the reason why my stand almost came crashing down, was the tiny little screws that came with it. They just weren't quite strong enough to hold up the weight of the boom. Now, I came across some disturbing news this past week. I work as a systems administrator, and one of my favorite tools to use for keeping files secure was Truecrypt. I used it as I've got some little flash drives, little thumb drives that I have plugged into a file server that I keep for offsite backups. I keep them with me when I leave the building, and I keep them encrypted using Truecrypt. Truecrypt was a great tool because it was cross-platform, completely cross-platform. I use Mac, I use Windows, I use Linux. Truecrypt works on all of those. Now, the other day, I went to install Truecrypt on my Windows machine and found out that it's been completely discontinued. There's some mysterious message on the website just saying Truecrypt is not secure anymore. They don't really tell us too much about why, but they did release a new version. It's only good for decrypting files. You can no longer download a current version of Truecrypt for encrypting your files. So that software is no good anymore. I'm going to be looking around for other options right now. I can't find anything that's free. There's some commercial options out there that'll work on up to 2 platforms. I still haven't found anything that's any good that works on all 3. So if you like to keep your files encrypted, you have a few options. You can use some of the open source options for Linux if you're a Linux user. I probably don't need to go into that too much. You probably already know what you're doing. In the case of Windows and Macintosh, well, they have a similar process of you can create a virtual disk on Windows or Linux. Mac. Mac has the disk utility where you can create a disk image file and encrypt it that way. It works fine. I use it to create, little file containers and stuff. They work as a folder, and you can do the same thing on Windows. It's a little bit more steps than it is on the Mac, but it's essentially the same process. Anyways, that was something I just thought I should get out there. Truecrypt is no more. If my explanation there was a little too quick for you, then you can go ahead and tune in next week when I'll actually show you a video of how to create encrypted file containers for Windows and Macintosh. There's all kinds of information out there. Go ahead and research it. This file container method is probably going to be the easiest way to do it. So tune in next week and I'll show you how. And that's all I've got for you for this week. Unfortunately, I can't do a live musical number. It's after midnight and I'm in a hotel, so that would probably get me in a little bit of trouble. But I will leave you with a recorded number. This is from 2011. It's from a band that I used to have called Torrential Pain. We used to be called Luciferian Conquest. We played a lot of black death metal, played around Western Canada quite a bit. This song was a demo that we wrote in an attempt to keep the band going as a 2-piece after our drummer had to leave. But unfortunately, this demo was the last anyone had ever heard of us. So anyways, this is a song called Three Sisters. It's a song about an Australian legend involving a witch doctor and some tribal warfare and all kinds of fun stuff. And here it is.